Crash Bandicoot has had a turbulent life. He started off as an instant classic, descended into an era of chaos and mediocrity, and then he was dead. But then, he wasn't. He was brought back to life, and what a comeback it had been. He relived his glory days with the fabulous Sane Trilogy and Nitro-Fueled, and then embarked on an absolute ripper of an original adventure with It's About Time. Crash was back and better than ever. Everyone was itching at the perineum to see what the Bandicoot would do next. Anything was possible, and what we got was Crash Team Rumble. Crash Team Rumble is a spin-off player versus player game that frankly no one was asking for, and it proved to be divisive. I experienced this game when it was new and fresh, and the energy that surrounded it was odd. Some people loved it, some people hated it, some people had no idea it existed in the first place, and some people liked to pretend it never happened. It's kind of like the Holocaust. I remember having mixed feelings about it, but it has been a little while since I played it. I've not played the game since they stopped updating it regularly, and it's faded into the background for me. It's time I revisited the game, formed a proper opinion on it, and figured out what the hell was going on. Is Crash Team Rumble any good? Let's rumble! The opening cinematic is a beautiful piece of animation that gets you pumped up and in the zone to play, but it doesn't do a good job of explaining what the game actually is, and to be honest, I struggle to explain it too. I can't find the words that accurately depict what this game is, but I'll do my best. Crash games generally fall into one of three categories. You've got the platformers, which are the main games, you've got the kart races, which are the kart races, and you've got the party games, which conveniently covers everything else. Crash Team Rumble fits into the everything else category fairly comfortably. The game is primarily a multiplayer PvP game. In a standard match, you play in teams of 4, and the goal is to deposit 2,000 Wumpa Fruit in your team's bank before the opposing team does so in theirs. There are lots of moving parts to this whole operation, but it involves characters taking on certain roles, influencing the map, general strategy, platforming, and combat. It's unlike anything I've ever played before or since, and I think the best way to describe the gameplay would be to talk about the playable characters. Because I honestly have no other ideas on how to approach this. This game is so confusing to talk about, so this is the best I can do. The cast of playable characters are divided into 3 roles: scorers, blockers, and boosters. They each have different strengths, weaknesses, and traits that are crucial to coming out on top, and it's probably a good idea for your team to have at least one of each. The role of the scorer is pretty obvious. Scorers need to go around the map and collect as much Wumpa Fruit as they can carry, then head to their team's bank and deposit it, thus scoring your team points. I like playing as scorers. They tend to be fast and agile, with plenty of flexible movement options, and they need those capabilities to effectively navigate the maps and collect Wumpa Fruit. Some are really fast on the ground, like Spyro, and others are very mobile in the air, like Catbat. The rest fall somewhere in between, with a good mix of horizontal and vertical movement. Scorers are obviously very crucial for a victory. You can't win without scoring, so you'd be a fool not to try and do it. Can you imagine going your entire life without scoring? What a virgin. Then you have blockers. The role of a blocker is pretty much the opposite of the role of a scorer. The scorers are trying to deposit Wumpa Fruit into their team's bank. The blockers need to stop that. Blockers will tend to hang around the enemy team's bank, and using a range of powerful combat abilities, they will try to stop the enemy from scoring. This is also a pretty crucial role, as if there's no one to stop the other team from scoring, then it won't be long until they reach the 2,000 Wumpa Fruit they need to win. Blockers range from being really good at their job, to being really shit at everything. Characters like Dingodile and Ripperoo are solid blockers. Their moves are simple and effectively deal with incoming scorers. Other characters like Embryo can't block to save their lives. The only thing Embryo can do to reliably block scorers is transform into his mutant form, but it has a ridiculously long startup and cooldown, so by the time Embryo transforms, the scorer has already scored and ran off. He can't even deal with one scorer effectively. Imagine if he had to deal with 2, he'd be fucked, as helpless as a pig in a slaughterhouse. But an effective blocker is a real boon for the team. Finally, you've got boosters. While the scorers are out scoring and the blockers are out blocking, the boosters are out making mischief. Boosters have a number of roles that aren't essential for victory, but they can make a massive difference and swing a match in their team's favour. The role of the booster boils down to, well, boosting your team in various ways. One way boosters can do this is by activating gem pads. By claiming a set of gem pads and successfully preventing the other team's boosters from taking them off you, boosters can win a temporary score boost for their team. increasing their team's Wampa scoring output. Gem boosts can stack, meaning you can get up to as much as a 100% boost on your team's scoring, doubling the output of your team's scorers. You don't need to be a genius to work out that that's pretty fucking useful. Boosters can also influence the map and grant other useful abilities to their teammates by activating relic stations. Relic stations are activated by depositing a certain number of relics into them. Any character can do this, but boosters can find more relics, allowing them to do it a lot easier. There are minor relic stations which grant their users some sort of trait or ability that makes them stronger, and there are major relic stations which, when activated, grant a huge advantage to the team that does so. What these relic stations do depend on the map itself, but they are almost always worth using. Anything to give your team the edge over the other is something worth pursuing, and that's what boosters are all about. There's a good variety of characters, each with unique quirks and capabilities that suit different playstyles. I suppose I should spill the beans and reveal my mains. For each role, I do have a character that I gravitate towards. For scorer, I like to play as Torna. She's extremely fast and has some solid movement options. Her hookshot allows her to cross large horizontal distances, both on the ground and in the air. She can also hold her own in a fight. I am a big fan of doing that uppercut smackdown combo and knocking someone off the map beyond recovery. Torna's a lot of fun. For blocker, I tend to pick Ripperoo. While I do love me some Dingodile since he's a very effective and easy to use blocker, I just like Ripperoo more. He has much better movement options, especially with the cannonball move that can just send him anywhere he wants to go, and his kick and bomb attacks get the blocking job done pretty easily. As for booster, I really like Engine, which is weird because he isn't really particularly good at too much. His boombox move is good for knocking away potential gem pad thieves, and it's nice to have an attack that homes in on enemies, but other than that, he's not particularly mobile or strong. I just like playing as him. I find him fun. Maybe I just like him as a character. But what's cool is those characters aren't locked to their particular roles. Some might also be pretty decent in other roles too. Anyone can claim a gem pad and deposit relics, so there's no reason, say, a scorer can't also be a booster. Some boosters are also fast and mobile enough to be decent scorers as well. While they are usually best suited to their main roles, it doesn't mean they can't be flexible and pull off other roles too. But regardless of what roles you decide to play or which character is your favourite, there are clearly some characters that are better than others. And while I don't think there's a single outright best character in the game, there is definitely a worst character, and that's Embryo. If Embryo tried to kick down a sandcastle, he would end up breaking his foot. He's absolutely worthless. But one thing you can do to help out even a character as useless as Embryo is use a power. Powers are a special item you can select before starting a match, and each one has different uses. For example, Flytrap Spitters and Gasmoxians are defensive powers that can claim gem pads or defend banks. Wampa Fruits boost your scoring potential, Portals warp you to your bank, Healing Fridges can heal you, Bounce Crates give you an aerial boost. There's a lot of different powers that can help you out, and with a good strategic choice, you can even make characters like Embryo somewhat effective. With Embryo, I like to use the Bounce Crates, since they will knock enemies away while also launching Embryo into the air, giving him time to actually transform and be able to block properly, if only for a few seconds. Other character item synergies I like are Dingodile with the Healing Fridge, which makes him a lot more durable and extends his already bonkers lifespan, allowing him to defend banks for longer. I also enjoy a good Flytrap Spitter with any of the boosters, as they make claiming and defending gem pads a whole lot easier. Powers can make a really big difference in how you perform with your character, and you can make any character power combo you want to suit your playstyle. And of course, all of this takes place on maps. There are 14 maps in the game, 12 of which are based on levels from Crash 4, and the remaining 2 based on the world of Spyro. Each map is different, with wildly different layouts, hazards and relic stations you have to consider. It's a really good idea to learn the maps and figure out the best strategy for victory. If you're on a fairly flat map like just Beachy, you might like a fast character on the ground like Torna, since she can move around pretty bloody quickly. If you're on a more vertical map like Insanity Caverns, you might prefer an aerially mobile character like Catbat, since they have a lot of jumps and aerial dives at their disposal. Of course, each map has their own relic stations with varying effects as well, and it would pay to consider who would best make use of those bonuses as well. The maps are really well designed, a lot of them are quite simple and not very hazardous, but they're all fairly fun to rumble on. Plus, they've got some clever names, like Waist Deep. That's so funny, because it's like waist deep, but instead of the waste on your body, it's toxic waste. Waist deep. Waist deep. So that's what this game is. Even after all that, I still don't know the best way to succinctly describe it, but the best I could come up with was that Crash Team Rumble is a competitive team versus team platformer. Admittedly, the platforming in this game doesn't come close to what this series is known for, but it's what the core of the gameplay is. And I've got to say, I kinda love it. I think it's a really wicked idea that was well executed. The game is loads of fun, it's hectic, it's chaotic, it gets your blood pumping, but it also gets you thinking about strategy, character roles, team compositions, maps, powers. It's a surprisingly deep game, and I just think it's really fun to play and be a part of. I tend not to like competitive multiplayer games since I myself am very competitive at times, and these sorts of games can bring out the worst in me. But Crash Team Rumble I really like, it's one of a kind. And this main mode isn't all this game has to offer. Crash Team Rumble, in one of its season updates, also gained a party mode, which was reminiscent of Crash Bash in a way. It was a collection of mini-games that took place in the various main maps and used the playable characters, but shifted the goal from platforming and combat and scoring to things like jumping on balloons and lighting candles and digging for dinosaur bones. And I would love to show it to you. But unfortunately, no one is fucking playing. I sat on this matchmaking screen for what felt like an eternity, and I didn't find a single person. Not in party mode, and not even in the standard mode. There was nobody playing this game. Not a single soul out there in the online world of Crash Team Rumble. Which is a shame because I would have really liked to revisit party mode, but I can't. I literally cannot. Playing online is the only way to experience party mode, and the Crash Team Rumble party mode population has been decimated by what I assume is a lack of interest in the game. I can't find any online players anywhere. All of the gameplay footage you've seen so far has been from the practice match mode. I'm playing with 7 bots. That's the only capacity in which this game can be played offline, and that fucking sucks, because the bots are dumb as shit, and they only ever play as Crash or Coco, so every match feels the same. If you want to do anything else in this game, you need to play online. So that means no party mode for me. And this is where the things I hate about this game come into play. Crash Team Rumble is poisoned with all the crap that I despise about modern games. Crash Team Rumble is primarily online, meaning the only real way to play it is online. There's no offline mode unless you're satisfied playing against 7 moron bots. There's no adventure mode, no offline party mode, nothing. You're restricted to online play. What happens when the servers go down? Will the game become literally unplayable? Then you've got this extreme emphasis on customization and cosmetics. The game is bloated with skins and costumes and hats and backpacks and emotes and effects and all this nonsense that no one will ever see because no one is playing online. I normally like customization in games, I had a ball with it in Nitro-Fueled, but here it just feels soulless. And I think that's because of the whole season battle pass thing. I think that's what I hate the most. The game encouraging grinding to earn XP so you can earn all this customization crap that no one will ever see because no one is playing online. I hate that. I hate the battle pass model. It just feels icky to me. I'd rather not engage with it. It's such a turn-off. The thought of all the value in the game being unlocking meaningless items instead of actually having a meaningful gameplay experience in the game itself infuriates me to no end. I don't want to sound like a grumpy old fuckwit, but what happened to the good old days? The days where all that mattered was making a fun game, instead of shoving all this season battle pass online ultra XP microtransaction shit down our throats. Look out guys, you gotta keep playing our game and earn as much XP as you can, otherwise you'll miss out on the content we coded into the game that we could just give to you without all that bullshit. Don't waste time, you've only got 25 years until the season ends, better be quick. All of this shit I feel hurts the game. In a way, it kind of separates Crash Team Rumble from every other game in the series. No other Crash game does this. Even Nitro-Fueled, which had regular updates with new content in a similar way, didn't feel as grimy and hollow as this stuff from Rumble, because Nitro-Fueled was still a full, complete package without the online mode. You had all sorts of things, adventure mode, time trials, relic races, CTR challenges, ring rally. It was a full game you could play and fully enjoy without being online at all. Crash Team Rumble is not that. The gameplay is awesome, it's a really cool idea and I had a lot of fun with it. I just wish it was the focus of the game. Instead, we've got to worry about all this other shit. It really puts me off. At the very least, it is all presented nicely. The game looks great, from the characters to the maps to even the UI. It is great to look at, and the music is taken from all of the game's Sane Trilogy and onwards, so obviously that's great too. But it does feel like something is missing. This game came after Crash 4, so obviously the art direction and style has been carried on, and while I'm a fan of Crash 4's presentation, I feel like it hurts Rumble's status in the series. What I mean by that is, it doesn't feel like it's a part of the whole series. Nitro-Fueled felt like a celebration of everything that Crash is, ever was, and ever will be. It drew inspiration from corners of the series that many casual fans never even knew existed. It was like a love letter to the series and its fans. Crash Team Rumble, on the other hand, feels like a celebration of specifically Crash 4, with a dash of Spyro mixed in too. All of the level environments are plucked directly from Crash 4, apart from the Spyro maps, which were taken from Spyro. Rumble doesn't feel like a new entry in the series, it feels like an extension of Crash 4. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it was intended to be. I'm pretty sure it was meant to be an extra game mode in Crash 4. I could be wrong, but I believe that to be the truth. And if it's not true, it doesn't matter, because that's what Rumble feels like anyway. And that brings us to the final verdict. Is Crash Team Rumble good or bad? The honest answer is, it's a bit of both. When you look at the gameplay in isolation, Crash Team Rumble is a lot of fun. It's a very unique approach to a multiplayer PvP game, and it's nothing like anything else I've ever seen. It's cool and I really enjoy playing it. I think it had a lot of potential, but I honestly think that all the extra shit that surrounds it does nothing but harm the experience. Battle passes suck shit. It's one of the modern trends in games that I hate the most. There's virtually no capacity for offline play, and virtually no one is playing online, which tells you everything really. There isn't a lot of interest, and there isn't a whole lot to do. Shit, I remember when this game was still having updates. Even during the release of a new season, it was rare to end up in a full lobby. I don't think there's a lot of overlap of people who like Crash Bandicoot and people who like the whole online grind season battle pass thing. I certainly don't like it, which is a shame. The game, at this point, is pretty much dead. Crash Team Rumble had the potential to be something really cool, because the concept and the actual game part of the game is great, but everything else just hurts it. So, is it any good? I can't really say. It depends on what you're into, which is the shittiest non-answer I can give in a review, but that's the honest truth of it. You might like it, you might not. Different strokes for different folks. They should have remade Bash instead.